Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Investing with Confidence. As always, I am your host, Joshua David, and we are happy to have you with us today. I do have my good friend, my good pal. He is the mastermind of this whole operation, Mr. Al Connickson. Al, how are you doing today?
Feeling pretty good, Josh. How about you?
I'm doing great. I love talking about the stock market with you. We had some great moves in the market this week, and our sponsor, Online Trading Academy, on their 25th year, teaching people just like you how to get started in these financial markets. Whether you're new to the markets or you are in the markets or maybe just have 401ks and IRAs, how to make smarter investing decisions within all those types of accounts. And that's what we're going to talk about here today, Al, is how to make smart investing decisions in income strategy accounts, but also your wealth accounts. Anytime we talk about wealth, that's your retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, and a lot of people are a little concerned about this market. We have some big downward moves. We've seen some retracements back up, so there's a lot of volatility in this great marketplace.
Right.
Now, especially with some of the commodities as well. You talk about gold and oil last week, how they were just skyrocketing. Well, this week they, let's just say they retraced a little bit. Gold and oil, actually oil hitting under $100 a barrel again. That's kind of funny. We're saying that last week it was 130. This week under 100.
Right.
Major moves, but the opportunities are there. We're going to talk about some of those opportunities with the futures market coming up. But Al, we had some different news events this week. Obviously, everybody knows the Fed talk this week on, was it Wednesday? Retail sales came out. We talked about PayPal a couple weeks ago. That's still respecting our demand zone that we had talked about. What do you see happening with this market? Some of the moves are driven by news events, but it all comes down to one thing, and that's supply and demand in the financial markets.
Yeah, it's supply and demand, and it's the emotional reaction of the public to what's going on. And as you mentioned, we've had these huge moves up and these huge moves down, more huge moves down. But I think what's happening is we're kind of getting back to that buy the dip, sell the rip mentality.
I like that one.
That's kind of what's been happening.
That's catchy, too.
Yeah, it's catchy. I like to throw a catchy one in here every once in a while. And this last week, we did have a number of things the Fed met, and also the retail sales report came out last Wednesday, and it was actually down 25% from what it was forecast. So inflation, we're starting to see the impact of inflation on spending. People are still spending; they're just spending less. And a big part of that the retail sales rose 0.3%, but 5.3% of the increase was spending on gas.
Yeah.
And then the two biggest components as far as what people spend money on are gas and then autos and auto parts.
Yeah.
And if you take those two out of the equation, the actual retail sales number would have been negative 0.4%.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago with like Starbucks. I mean, that's a place where people are always, buying things. Well, maybe they're slowing down a little bit. Their stock price down to about $89 per share. So you're seeing maybe companies struggling a little bit because of that, but it's been happening for a while, I believe.
Yeah, and the inflation is having an impact on how people spend. Actually, the numbers in that retail sales report for food and beverages were down 0.5%.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to get loans just to buy food and gas right now, it feels like.
Right, and now they're starting to look at things like Starbucks as maybe being, something special that they do, maybe less often than they did before.
Well, let's hope so.
But here's the other thing is that we still have consumers that really accumulated a high amount of savings during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of people went back to jobs with higher wages. So, there's still money there. The consumer will keep spending. But as long as the market is open, as long as we have these moves, we have opportunities. We've got a number of things that are going to impact the economy, impact the market, which is great. I mean, some of them maybe are negative, and I hate to say that those are things we can take advantage of, but we can. And you have to be realistic. If you have a portfolio, whether it's just an investment portfolio or a retirement portfolio, you're really responsible for trying to get as much benefit out of it as possible, because that impacts your financial security and your family's financial security.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit. We have a lot of listeners here locally in Denver, Colorado, and Bloomington, Minnesota, listening to the show. And there's a lot of news that are impacting some of these moves in the markets. But talk through, our sponsor, Online Trading Academy. It's all about having a strategy to make smarter investing decisions. So talk a little bit about supply and demand in the markets and how to make those smart decisions, even when, there's turmoil going on all across the world.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what we see when there's activity like we're seeing, the Russian-Ukraine situation, Fed rate hikes upon us, oil was hitting highs.
It's
but
still
not
gas
done.
prices pretty darn high, right? Actually, all-time highs, weren't they?
Yeah, and Russia is about to cut about 30% of their oil production, so we really haven't felt the impact of that. And the last inflation report that came out really reflected what happened in February before the real impact of the Ukraine-Russia situation hit us.
It's funny, they call it Putin's inflation, but the inflation started early. It's kind of weird how that happens, isn't it?
It certainly did. It got worse. It got worse when Putin entered the picture, but inflation was there before.
It was here.
Yeah, and so what do people do? What do you do if you have a portfolio, if you're thinking about getting into the market? Do you just buy things and hold on? Do you buckle up, hold on, and ride it out? Unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do. But when we're seeing these big moves, the fundamentals of companies didn't change when it goes up one day and down the next day and up the next morning and down the next afternoon. What changed was buyers and sellers came into the market. That's when you get down to that supply and demand. That's demand is buyers in the financial world, supply or sellers. So that's what impacts the price of something. And there's only two really key important things to consider. One is when price turns, at turning points of price, and then how far is it going to go? That's what our strategy does. We have a core strategy that really concentrates on those issues. Let's keep it simple and just factually on what impacts the price of your portfolio and the assets you're invested in.
Yeah, and I know you want to continue to discuss that in the next section here, but it's all about buying at wholesale and selling at retail, just like those institutions do. Unfortunately, the public is conditioned and trained to do it backwards. And if we get some time here today, we'll give some real-life examples on how that's happening, why you're being conditioned to actually buy high and hope to sell higher. So we're going to talk about those turning points coming up here in the next few segments here that Al was talking about. But it's the beginning of the show, and we have a lot of people listening, as I said, right here locally in Denver and also Bloomington that want to get started making smarter investing decisions in the markets, but just maybe not sure on how to do that. We have investing classes locally. It's hands-on, actually live classes to actually learn how to do that. So we have, that's one of the things people really like. They say, I wanted a place to go to learn how to trade and invest. Well, Online Trading Academy has that. So I'm going to give away 20 tickets right now. Get your phone ready for 2 tickets. When you call right now, you're going to receive 2 tickets for this investing class locally, but also an insider's kit that actually has some free stock picks and will help you get started right away. Call 888-682-6466 right now. 888-682-6466. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about income strategies in the market. We have a lot of people that want more income strategies. How to do that, different techniques and strategies for that, coming up next. We'll be right back.